Good evening and welcome to the January 27th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. Before we start, we ask that if you have a cell phone or electronic noisemaker, if you could please silence them, it'd be very much appreciated. Also, if you're here to speak on any one of the applications, and we encourage you to do so, we just ask that you go to the podium and state your name for the recording secretary. And the SCTV is recording this live, so.
Language.
Yep.
Hey, Russ,
Yes.
don't you have a cell phone thing?
That's a cell phone. Okay. First up is a request for continuance under notice of intent is Robert and Lorraine Williams, 26 Eel River Road, East Falmouth, Mass. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting continuance until March 2nd.
So move.
Second.
Okay, Courtney and Maury, March 2nd. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Abstentions unanimous, so moved. March 2nd. Okay. Betsy, here you go. Okay, next up is a request for continuance under notice of intent. Perch Pond Preservation, Inc., Perch Pond Navigation Channel and nearby beaches, East Falmouth, Mass. Jen.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting continuance until March 2nd.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Maury, second by Betsy, to continue to March 2nd. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved. Request for determination of applicability. Town of Falmouth Water Department, care of Stephen Rafferty, 64 Pumping Station Road, Falmouth, Mass., for permission to control stormwater runoff by recreating a swale which includes removal of vegetation, excavation to dimensions of the original swale, installation of concrete curbing to act as runoff diverters, dig a trench and a line with construction fabric, and screened gravel and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we are recommending a negative 2 under the bylaw and negative 3 under the state of resource area boundaries non-conforming.
So move.
Second.
We got Mike and Betsy for motion and second. Comments or questions from the commission? Comments or questions from the public? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote for a -2. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Abstentions unanimous, so moved.
You can tell Steve he can stay.
Yeah, you can stay if
You
you
can
want.
stay, Steve. You're always welcome.
It's always fast, and I'll stay for just a little bit, but I have to leave at 11.
Next up is Colonial Gas Company, care of Andrew Shelby, from 38 to 42 Beach Street, East Falmouth, Mass., for permission to extend the existing gas main service within the existing road with gas connection to 42 Beach Street. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we are recommending a negative 2 under the state bylaw with the resource area boundaries non-conforming.
So move.
Second.
Courtney on the motion, Mary on the second. Comments or questions from the commission? Comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Abstentions unanimous, so moved.
We didn't get a printout.
Okay, all hearings, this is a request for hearings under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetland Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. And first up tonight, we have David and Valerie Facillo, 64 Karen Jane Ave, East Falmouth, Mass., for permission to repair the existing 155-foot licensed concrete seawall, which includes cutting back the existing concrete footing, installing composite sheet piling to the height of the old footing, add a 6-inch wide concrete pour to the existing concrete wall, raise the wall 6 inches to tie the old wall with a new wall, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll say if anyone has comments on the
Good evening, Raul.
Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi from Holmes and McGrath. We're the engineers and land surveyors for the applicant, the Fusillo family. This project, it may look familiar to all of you. A couple of weeks ago, it was presented before you, but not for the seawall, but rather for the proposed additions to the house. This new notice of intent is for the repair of the existing seawall. What's happened in this particular location, a good portion of this seawall has been undermined by the loss of sediments at the beach, and it's exposing the toe of the seawall and undermining portions of the seawall. What we're proposing to do is to drive vinyl sheeting along the front, the water side of the existing seawall, and filling behind the vinyl sheeting the voids with concrete. Then the rest of the seawall and the top of the new footing will be kind of coated with mortar. There's no proposed changes to any of the topography. After the work is done, there'll just be a vinyl sheet face at the toe of the seawall, but then the rest of the seawall will be concrete. The way they're going to treat the face of the seawall is similar to the way they shotcrete pools. They just shotcrete the face of the seawall and just smooth it out. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Jim?
Raul, did you give any thought into putting it behind the existing wall?
Well, what's happening is the sediments underneath the footing are being washed away on the water side. If we install a vinyl sheeting behind it, we're not really blocking that sediment from the erosion that's happening right now. By putting it in front of it, we're actually eliminating the scouring underneath it.
Coming out.
Right, the scouring is happening on this side. There is a section on the top side that started to settle because of the loss of sediments. So if we were to do something behind it, we're not protecting the existing seawall. The seawall as it is still vertical. It's not collapsing forward to the beach or anything. So what we're just trying to get is inject the concrete so that we fill beneath that existing footing and we regain the bearing on the footing. What we're proposing to do, there's an existing footing in this seawall. It's about 16 inches. The portion that's severely undermined has already practically lost that portion of the footing. It's crumbled away. But what we're trying to do is cut out 9 inches of that existing footing and replacing it with 9 inches of the vinyl. So we're not projecting any further into the water. We're keeping the same face of the existing footing, and we're filling behind it with concrete. So eventually, the same footprint will remain, but this time we'll make sure that we have enough cement or enough mortar filling all the voids.
Courtney?
No comments.
Just it's a salt marsh buffer there, so
You're gonna protect that salt marsh, Raul, that little
There's-
skinny salt marsh?
There's 3
Yeah.
salt marks on the plans. We're not proposing to traverse over them. The installation process is going to be using one of these handheld vibrating driving equipments. So we're not proposing to have heavy equipment. The vinyl sheets are proposed to be resting on the pier, on the existing pier, and they'll just take them one at a time as they drive them down. The sections are 5 foot long. There'll probably be sections of 6 foot long because they eventually cut the very top of it. But essentially 5 feet will be what's used for this project. 4 feet will be below the footing and probably 1 foot is going to be exposed.
Your vinyl sheet's not well, it's gonna be sitting on the footing
No,
or in front of the footing?
in front of the footing. Portion of the footing is going to be cut out,
Yeah.
9
Okay.
inches.
9 inches.
And it's going to be driving in front of it.
the footing. So if you put it in the back and you drive it below the footing from the back side, wouldn't that stop the undermining as well?
The back on the landward side, we're talking probably 3 feet back. If we were to do that, we have to excavate all this, and we are still not protecting the existing wall. That still leaves the wall without bearing underneath for a good section here.
Then remove the wall, right? No? Okay, I'm gonna get my construction guys to.
Rebuilding the wall in kind will be a more intrusive work.
Okay,
We do believe that installing the sheet pile provides the same protection
okay,
and less impact.
okay.
What's that, Kristen? Maury?
When I went out there, the owner, the Mrs. came out and gave a very good explanation. I guess you must have explained it well to her, because she did a good job. But she said that the sheathing originally was gonna go all the way up, and you were gonna make a cap, but now you're just going to go pretty much where that step out is, cut it back, drive the sheathing in, and then really just recap, so you're not getting the scouring under the wall.
Yeah.
I
That's
understand
correct.
it, okay. One question I did have, and obviously we'll have conditions to protect everything. On the old license that you submitted, I just want to make sure when we do the order, that we make sure that this time around, that the signage gets put up for the good public access signs on the dock. And just to follow what's required in your Chapter 91 license. And to be honest, the site there today was in really good shape considering the bad weather we've had. And they did protect all the catch basins with filter cloth. So I was happy to see that part of the site done. Other than that, thank you.
Mike?
Well, I was there, the tide was going out, there was seepage coming out from under the wall. Bank wall. Is there, when you drive that sheeting, are you gonna create hydraulic barrier that will add some loading to that wall?
Well, the existing wall has a few spots where there is drain holes with pipes through them. I remember seeing them here, but I didn't look for them throughout the entire thing. So I know that there is some water relief pressure holes on the wall. When I was there,
didn't
it
see
was...
them, but I'm like you, I couldn't miss it.
Yeah, on the inside, I remember seeing them, they were probably 3 feet from the bottom. On this side, when I was there, it was low tide. I do know that high tide reaches the point of the wall. So there is some groundwater that reaches higher than the footing. So when low tide starts receding,
Right.
that same water from the tides will wash down. But it's not that it's a lot of rainwater that's coming from the surface. Most of this surface, paved surfaces, go down this existing paved way, and there's a catch basin there with a direct discharge somewhere out here. So we know that most of that runoff is taken care of. Most of the runoff from the new project, if you remember from a couple of weeks ago, we're directing to dry wells. So we're kind of minimizing or reducing the amount of runoff that eventually makes it on the ground.
I guess the answer what I'm hearing is if you're worried about it and you've taken action, so you're comfortable.
Yeah, we're comfortable.
I'm comfortable, there we go. I'm good.
Betsy?
But it's groundwater that's coming out of there, isn't it just gonna dog underneath? It's like putting in some
Eventually,
kind of
sure.
barrier. Yeah.
Yeah, the question is, we'll back
You don't
up
want it.
somewhat, and if you're satisfied that the wall isn't gonna lean, then I'm satisfied. It's a judgment call, and their judgment is as good as mine.
Mary?
I noticed a couple things in the submission that I'm wondering about. I don't know if they present anything that needs cleaning up or not, but just wondering about the structural engineering document in your narrative. It's not, whoever prepared it is not identified, there's no stamp. I don't know if that's an issue or not. And then the other thing is that the license documents reference approximately 145 feet, and your application is talking about 155 feet.
155 is actually what we surveyed and measured. We don't think that it was built 145 and then later added on. Maybe initially when it was documented at a number that's really
It's
not
estimated.
there. But what we measure is the 155. And I know that the section that the structural consultant provided was a hand-drawn section. Subsequent to that submission, we did receive a more formal. I can submit it for the record.
Yeah, that's a good idea, thank you. Thanks. Okay, that's all for me, thank you.
Jamie?
So just to be clear, the piling's just to reinforce the existing footing,
Right,
okay? And then you're gonna be pouring a new facade
right.
and shotcrete. Thank you. I'm good.
Just a quick comment, Raul. I agree with Jen. I'd much prefer to see the sheet piling driven on the landward side of the seawall, but I understand the issue with the footing and all that, so, I mean, much prefer the other way, so that we, further away from the resource, the better, but I guess because of what you've got, that's what you're stuck with, so. Okay.
I mean, there's other it won't, if you stick it behind, it's not gonna do anything to deal with the problem they have.
No.
Right.
And you know,
And that's what he's saying.
and otherwise, you'd have to make a completely new
Exactly.
wall.
Yep.
And actually, you're cutting it back, so you're not
You're cutting
actually
it back
going
so it's the
further.
same, so.
You're not going any
it's actually the
closer to
same.
my, if I read the engineering, okay.
Yeah.
And then
Remember on previous ones, we've said, we've asked them to move it
the
back.
footing
and
isn't
it's
going
gone.
forward.
It's worked out
What's the
pretty good.
width?
Wall, footing,
Yep, they're cutting the footing off,
they're cutting this off.
right,
But what's the width of the top?
9 inches. And then the next question is, you made a comment about the direct discharge with that catch basin, and after talking to Mrs. Ficillo, she said that they wanted to do something about that runoff, but the butters go away, and that you might come back with an amendment or something. It would be nice to see, because that is a bad,
Problem.
bad thing.
Right, that comment, it happens outside of the property,
Right,
and it's a different type of construction.
correct.
It's cinder blocks, completely undermined, completely scoured behind it. There's probably a 2-foot scour behind those. There's a direct discharge pipe, it's a clay pipe, it's believed to be completely plugged. But whatever water makes it down here eventually keeps filtering through and pushing some of the sediments in this area right here. It's not part of this project, but she does want to
Yeah.
take the advantage that she has the equipment and the materials in place and take care of that, then it will probably be through an amendment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying, it would be nice to encourage that. I'm not saying it's part of this project, but, again, the machinery's all there, you're doing work there.
Right, and she's aware of it, because if that section does become a real problem, it eventually affects her property, because it would keep on scouring into the side yard.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments, questions from the commission?
I make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
We have a motion by Betsy to close the hearing, second by Maury. Any questions or comments from the public? Jen, you all set on this? Okay. I'm hearing none. We'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved.
Thanks, Raul.
Thank you, Raul.
It is. Okay, next up is Marie Cromwell, 36 Westwood Road, North Falmouth, Mass., for permission to remove invasive plants and dead trees from a former mitigation planting area. Treat invasive plant stems with herbicide where needed, install native tree, shrub planting material, replant an existing path, and create a path in a new location. Install beach grass and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll leave my comments until after the presentation.
I
Good
did some
evening,
coloring
everyone.
for you. To kind of give you a little bit more detail. We actually have a class that don't. Probably pretty relaxing, right? Good evening, I'm Maria Hickey from Maria Hickey Landscapes, representing Mr. and Mrs. Cromwell, who are respectfully requesting permission to move forward with this project. Back in 2006, they built their home on this property and planted mitigation plants that currently are in this pink area against the deck. And they received their certificate of compliance. I started working with them this summer because the entire site is completely overgrown with non-native invasive vines such as porcelainberry, bittersweet, honeysuckle. It's an entire blanket that is covering all the mitigation plants and the trees. And if you had looked in the application of the notice of intent, I included at the end of that some pictures that represented how it actually looks out there. So, unfortunately, this happens sometimes on Cape Cod when you don't maintain the removal of your non-native vegetation. Furthermore, the association has a right-of-way access to go down to the beach. And it's the lower path that's on the left. However, they all seem to use the path that's on the Cromwell's property. So they're trespassing on this corner of the property. They're sitting on the stone wall to watch the sunset. When I walked down there with her, there was so much trash, there was drug paraphernalia. It just wasn't a good situation. So what we would like to do is go in. There's absolutely one dead cedar in this line. And take that cedar out for our access to get in here and remove all the non-native invasive vegetation and see what we have left. Initially, under the former order of conditions, they planted mitigation plants and some Juniperus virginiana. We don't know, we can't tell at this point whether or not they're alive. Whatever is living, we're going to keep. Whatever is dead, we're going to remove. And we want to voluntarily replant a much bigger area than they originally had in their order of conditions. Down along the beach wall, I just highlighted in green because it was a little confusing how it was printed on here. When we close off the path that everyone has been using, we need to plant a section of beach grass, bayberry, and rosa rugosa to match what's along the existing wall. And there are a few little pockets that didn't make it over the years, so we just want to replant those as well. And we are proposing, as you can see in this yellow area, once we have removed all the non-native invasive vegetation, roots and all, to then go in and replant 3 feet on center native shrubs. We supplied a list to you, which actually more than quadruples what they originally did for their mitigation plans. And up along the deck, to put perennials to encourage butterflies, hummingbirds, and bees so that we can cross-pollinate some of the species that we'll have growing in our woody shrubs. And furthermore, we're going to have their proposed path go down the center, so it's least disruptive to the area. So if they want to go down and sit on their wall, it's the shortest distance, they're not disrupting any of the plantings, and it takes away this whole access point that people in the neighborhood have been cutting across their property to use. Furthermore, the association still has an existing path on their land to access the beach and the water. So it's not that we're taking anything away, we're just trying to protect Mr. and Mrs. Cromwell and the liability and exposure that they face, you know, when people are trespassing on their property. We wanted to plant a windbreak of juniperus on both sides of the lot line. It is a windy site, and we felt that this would give better protection to the plantings. And there are 7 Juniperos virginiana that we don't even know if they're alive, because if you can picture, there's been a blanket of vegetation sitting on top of these trees for a number of years, which may have suffocated them. We won't know until we get that vegetation out of there. So on the actual site plan, when it was given to you guys and it looks blank, it's because we couldn't plot anything on there existing until we can see what's existing. And to see what's existing, we need a permit to go in and clean it up. Okay, any questions?
Jim?
Okay, Maria, when you remove the vegetation, it's gonna be conditioned that you contact us and I want a series of photographs.
Absolutely.
I understand that, you know, you're kind of at a disadvantage, you don't know what's alive in there. There is a healthy bayberry and a healthy shrub layer at the top of that wall going back.
Yeah, we're keeping all of
Certain number
that.
of feet.
Yeah,
I want that photographed, and then once you go in and physically remove the invasive,
yeah,
you know, another series of photographs on what has to be removed, and then,
Absolutely.
you know,
just document it all.
a real thorough documentation of what's going on.
Jen, this whole,
I-
it's like a good 12 to 15 feet
Yeah,
wide.
yeah.
That's all staying, we're not even touching that. If I have to hand remove any bittersweet that's in there, I will, but none of that native vegetation, the bayberry, or the rosa rugosa, or the beach grass is coming out. We're just gonna add to it. If there's areas that, there's a couple of them, if you walk along that wall, you'll see, there's nothing just from storms and erosion. And if we need to backfill with any 3/4 inch stone in between the rocks, you know, to prevent any more erosion, we'll do that as well. I included that.
Yeah. The second thing is the trees. If the trees that you have marked to be removed, I don't want them shoved over in the corner.
Yep.
Any trees that need to be, those trees need to be removed. Trees need to be replaced in those general areas as well. And the perennials. I understand the desire to have perennials and not have the mitigation plantings right up to the deck. But the mitigation plantings were for a house that was built and additional footprint was put within the commission's jurisdiction without a permit, and also for unauthorized cutting of the buffer. So, as I told you earlier today, my recommendation is that has to comply with the old order. So that's gonna have to be the shrub mitigation and not perennials. There is a reason now we say that the shrub mitigation needs to be 10 feet away from the house, because these lots will become maximized with structures, patios and decks, and they didn't have the room for their mitigation, and it goes right up to the deck, and this is what happens. And they were pulled back in 2006. That was, you know, they had the option to remove the patio, and they chose the mitigation route. So my recommendation to this board is it stays.
So let me ask you a question then.
Put the perennials along the side, and put your butterfly garden
Yep.
on the side.
On the yellow area, where we don't have any mitigation plants, we were offering to put, you know, native shrubs in there.
But the yellow area was a native buffer prior to going into the house, so you would be removing native buffer to put mitigation? No.
No, right now, that area is so overgrown with all the invasives. What I'm saying is, when I remove those invasives, if there's nothing viable there, I absolutely want to replant.
No, I know that, but what I'm saying is that's completely separate from the area of the perennials, which you're removing mitigation plantings in that
Gotcha.
area to put the perennials,
Yeah.
because that area was required for a number of
Gotcha.
activities that weren't authorized by this board, including the certain landscape features of the house, and then also unauthorized cutting. I understand what you're doing, but you understand that this board always encourages restoration of the removal, restoration and removal of invasives as long as the natives are replanted, but you can't remove the invasives and then use that area for mitigation
Gotcha.
offset. You get what I'm saying?
I do.
So, but.
I was just
it's-
asking to
No, I
shift,
understand.
but
It's
that's all
gonna be
right.
up
We
to
can do
the
it the other
board.
way. Yep.
It's really gonna be up to the board, but if the board wanted to see the old file, I have it right here. Other than that, I think documenting, the way you're gonna do this to kind of tighten up the methodology, will be good.
You
Okay?
got it.
Excellent. That's it, Sharon.
What's it?
Well, let me ask you a question, Jen, since
Sure.
you're familiar with the old file. Were all these trees are gonna be planted?
I can look right now.
Yeah. I'm just thinking if that was bare.
It's all vegetated now,
It's vegetated now?
with cedars.
I thought people were walking down there.
No, there's actually nothing there right now.
Oh, so those are, it says proposed tree to.
Yeah, that's where we're proposing to keep people off the property. To
And right
just-
now it's a path.
No, you're talking about the little circle area.
Those are all cedars. they're just-
Yes,
I'm talking about, there's a whole series of.
On the
them
south
both
side,
sides.
All right.
south
It
side.
says proposed trees.
Here, Beth, here's the old plan.
Right along here.
It's all trees.
It was all that vegetated buffer.
Oh, okay, and it was cleared for people to.
No.
I mean, people made a path through there.
No, I think what,
People made a path.
Maria, she's talking about the circles that look like the donuts.
yep, those are the proposed trees that we want to plant, because
In the
right
area
now,
that's
there's-
currently invasive.
it's currently invasives, and we would like to re-landscape where this existing path is to close off that access.
And that existing path, that's it,
It's
is
here.
right here and right here on the old plan.
I was just there, cedar trees.
Oh, and it was an existing path.
This is getting.
Yes.
All right.
Going up flat and stuff.
You wanna
Okay.
keep this for a minute? Seems.
No, but I do have a suggestion,
Okay?
and that is, in addition to having all
It's-
these
do you want the
cedars
little
along here,
overlay
why don't you
that
put a
goes
spring
over
rail
it?
fence on that property line?
Okay.
Not a bad
I
idea.
mean, if you don't want people to walk on your property, to the shore.
I was just trying to keep it as natural looking as I could,
It's in a B zone,
you know?
I want split rail
it's in a
fence.
B zone.
Then I'm gonna wanna put roses on this one.
It's in a B zone.
Okay. Anyway, that's all.
Mary?
You're proposing, it sounds like, to do this removal basically all by hand, and then put down filter cloth and monitor.
Yes.
And I just want to make sure, given the species involved, that you think that's going to be adequate, a one-time kind of addressing of the problem, rather than, you know, over the course of a few seasons.
Oh, we're gonna
Cycle.
continue to monitor the property.
And pull,
The landscape fabric, the kind that I'm gonna use has a 25-year warranty on it. And then we're gonna put mulch on top of it, so eventually what will happen is the shrubs will get bigger and everything will grow together, and it just looks like one big, beautiful, lush green area. And just to correct you, we will need to use a machine if we have to take out trees that are dead.
right.
And the access point is where the current dead cedar tree is, which I included a picture of in the application.
Okay, and then the other question I had was about your note 5 and the proposed planting notes. It's about the trees, and it says varied height and caliper size as shown, but I don't see that it's shown. Maybe I missed it. All I see is the number of trees depicted and the location.
So we're looking for like a minimum of 8 feet tall.
Okay, I think that it would be nice to either have this note corrected for the
Okay.
file, or maybe we can condition after you've been able to see what you're dealing with,
Sure.
to get a more detailed plan.
Okay.
One or the other. Preferably, I think, the latter. That's all for me, thank you.
Jamie?
Are you allowing the existing irrigation system to stay?
Do what? I couldn't hear you.
Existing irrigation system.
Right.
In the front of the lawn, Mary? In the front, right?
In the side, it is a little bit on the side. It's along the south side is lawn. It's all actually within jurisdiction for no fertilizing anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, my opinion only, I can't see removing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're just gonna disturb things more. It's there, it's there. It's
I'm good.
my opinion on it. Mike?
No question.
Maury?
On Buzzards Bay, I'm not concerned with it anymore.
After looking at the old file, at first I thought this was, a pretty straightforward project, and we keep having, these invasive removals and replanting with natives, which is a good thing. This particular one bothered me after I went out to see the site and reading the narrative. First of all, the species that are listed out there, as the natives that are out there, there are a lot that are missing. There are oaks, there's sumac, there's tupelo. I'm gonna ask for a continuance, because I think everybody should read the file. And I came in early, and only because this one bugged me enough. The old requirement for the mitigation basically says, it was in 2011, I believe, and it said that it had to, 6, and then Moffitt had a letter in there in 2011 to plant 10 new eastern red cedars. And I don't know when the last time you were out there, Marie, but everything is very visible right now because all the swallowwort and everything's all dead. And the cedars are living. Unfortunately, what's happened is they've been hacked. Almost everything out there has been hacked. So there's a lot of sucker growth coming up. When you walk through, you almost kill yourself because there's so many stumps that have been cut down. I really think it should have a full evaluation of what's out there and tagged what's living now, because it is visible now, so you can see a lot. I mean, you can even bend the branches on a lot of the bayberry. And that blanket of bayberry in there, as soon as you pin geotech cloth down, there's no root growth going out and coming back up. And that's how a lot of these plants that she's recommending, that's how they grow. So as soon as you put jute mat down, basically you have to put it down, you have to remove everything, because you just don't, wind these little teeny, scarves around everything. And then by doing that, you've eliminated any reshooting. So you do only get one plant. When you poke the whole plant, nothing's gonna come up through. As we all know, mulch, weed seed, the seed bed will plant itself on top of the mulch, and it will grow down through, and it'll just start. We see it all the time. I'm not a fan at all of the jute mat. I think going out there, hand cutting, maintaining it. We've seen Wilkinson. We've had a lot of these projects in front of us, Marie, and they're this thick when they do a project like this with a lot of maintenance. Every year, how they go out. I think we need a lot more methodology. I look at this and I'm not saying it's not going to be done right, but that doesn't mean you are going to be the person on the site, because tomorrow they could hire somebody else after they
Actually,
get
I'm
an order.
under contract to do the
Yep.
project.
So going in, ripping everything out, that's what it sounds like. And I just think that I think they're not giving us anything. What's happened really is they already were supposed to do it. They did not maintain it. They actually hurt the plants by cutting them improperly. And now they have a mess, and now they're going to replant, but now they're doing it with, different species. Eastern red cedars were required. Eastern red cedars are not going back. I think they should go back. This is a very, very severe area. The wind breaks on your north and south side. You get the westerly winds there. I mean, unless you want to plant your view, but you're not going to do that. So the windbreak thing, it does help a little bit, but the particular ones she's picked are very conical, and they only grow about 12 feet tall. So they don't really they give wildlife habitat to a degree, but not a lot, compared to an eastern red cedar, which are far more native. And then it says coastal beach, and I don't know if anybody looked down there, but I would like that I think Janet should be change to a rocky intertidal, because I just don't want to see 5 years from now saying we need to beach nourish, because it's not a beach, it's a rocky intertidal. So make sure that,
That's a Holmes and McGrath issue.
Okay.
Well,
So if I could speak to a few of the things that you said. When we put down the landscape fabric, which is different than the jute matting, I use it in 3-foot wide sections, and I literally roll it between the rows of plants and pin it. So from plant to plant in the row of the plant, you have bare ground, so there's room for the plants to expand and suckers. And I also do a square around each plant. So I would say projects even 6, 7, or 8 years ago that I've done, you cannot even see the ground. We've gotten complete expansion with the sucker growth by putting down the fabric that way.
the sucker growth comes up through all the jute mat?
The way that you lay out the jute mat, you leave room for it to come out on either side of the plant, like a 4-foot wide radius. And what you're doing is just protecting the bigger, bare spaces so that you're not giving the opportunity for your invasive vines to come up. And when we say we go in and we remove all the vines, it's mostly that we're trying to get the roots out, because you leave like a little fragment of the root in, and it regenerates.
Well, that's why we need a maintenance plan, and it's long-term.
And we were planning, just as in the order of conditions, that you have to maintain the site through, 2 or 3 growing seasons. We plan to do that.
Oh, it'll
because-
be longer than that, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Well, it's
Yeah, it
forever.
depends. It's
But the
forever.
whole point of this project is, do it once and do it right and the least disruption to the site. And clearly in the past, it wasn't done in probably the correct way.
And then the native species out there, I think Jen, the staff should go over the list, because a lot of them that they're proposing, if you go up and down that area, the native areas that haven't been too disturbed, there's not much clethra. Anyway, but Jen can do the,
Yep, we'll go through that.
go through that with her.
And the other point that I wanted to make on the Juniperus chinosis, I have planted probably 40 of them on Oyster Pond, like where there's a huge wind tunnel that comes through, like 40 mile an hour winds at all times. And I think we'd all agree that last winter was a fairly severe winter. I didn't have one dead branch or section on any of them.
Well, you still have to plant all the cedars that were required in the other order, unless we want to switch them out. And we've never really switched out. Now we're switching an old order of conditions, and we're making a new plan. I guess, that's just my opinion. And again, this one I have a lot of reservations and want to look at a lot closer, because when you keep saying over here on the south side that there's nothing there, I was there today, and unless I was on the wrong lot, but I don't think I was, that whole south side where you're planting the new cedars, the chin cedars, it's all cedar trees there. So I don't know why.
There's a whole pocket of them that we are not going to touch, that are going to stay. And we're planting outside of that
To the north or to the south
to
of
the
it?
south.
Well, you can't, because the south is their property. Because I'm looking at the edge of the clearing.
Like right here, there's a big swath of cedars that are healthy and looking great. And we're
But they're not
just
on this plan.
right
You're
here.
showing
That
4 of them
has
being cut
1,
down.
2, 3. There's 3 really, really big ones right here.
Well, they're not identified, and those are supposed to be, if you look at the old order of conditions, those plants were supposed to be bayberry and beach plum. So they're already there, and they're not cedar, those 3 are not cedar trees. There's a whole grove of cedars, probably 15, small caliper, but tall and dense, like grove of them. And again, I don't see anything on this plan showing any, except for the cedars that they're proposing to cut down. There's a lot more out there than what they're showing.
And I think that when I worked with Jeff Johnson on this one, we went out to the site the end of August and then again in
Yeah,
September.
you can't even get through.
And we couldn't identify anything.
Right.
It was a complete jungle. I mean, I put the pictures in
I did, I
here
saw.
so you could see. And the plan was done at that time because, as you can see, it was just a blanket.
Well, maybe
Of
Jeff
invasives.
might
They need
have the survey.
All right, I'm done beating the horse, I'm sorry.
If the commission wants the survey,
Go
we
ahead.
should probably go back out and survey more trees.
Okay, could I suggest something?
I need to read something into the for you guys to
And
remember,
Rosemary.
and Marie, I'm not quite sure, I'm just kind of perusing this, and this goes to my perennial issue
Okay.
and why I have, so from the findings back in 2006, the applicant constructed a 60-square-foot patio not depicted on the plan of reference, installed 5 air conditioning units, a small set of stairs for the south deck access, and a number of ornamental plantings were installed in the commission's jurisdiction along the southern boundary of the property. They had proposed to do a number of things. The commission, in an effort to work with the applicant, was willing to accept the proposed planting plan, meaning shoving them all the way up on the deck, with the assurance that the applicant would not remove, prune, or alter the mitigation plantings proposed in this NOI, which are located outside the commission's jurisdiction. The applicant during the public hearing agreed to submit a letter in writing agreeing to that condition, that they would not alter the mitigation plantings proposed in this notice of intent. So that was a finding. It was made a special condition, and on special condition number 4, prior to recording the order, the applicant must submit a letter or documentation agreeing not to alter the plantings installed under this OOC and to maintain the plantings according to special condition number 2, and a certificate of compliance would not be issued until the documentation was received. Then in November 15, 2010, as stated in my letter of January 18, 2011, it is agreed that we will not make any alterations to the plantings installed under this order of conditions issued December 22nd, 7th, 2006, and the plantings will be maintained in good health and allowed to grow into their fully mature form, and it's signed by the applicant. That is why I have an issue with the perennials being removed. The applicants knew this going forward. But again, I'm just giving you the information.
Good. So I have a suggestion based on what Maury brought up and you amplified, and that is that we have a continuance. You go back and look at what was required for the mitigation planning and show us that that's going to be put here, and then if you want to add additional mitigation planning, we're for it. But we want to make sure that what was supposed to have been there in 2006 and 2010 is there.
Yeah, and I have absolutely no problem to make sure, you know, I've allocated for 200 native shrubs.
Yeah, well, but what I'm saying is,
So-
you have to go, you have to go back in and look,
Yeah,
look
with
to
this
see
gen.
what was required, and make sure that, you know, when you go out, you might see that some of what was required is there.
Still there.
So you don't have to add, but if what was required isn't there, that
We
has
have
to
to-
be.
Basically,
Yeah.
the area in question is where it says perennial. All that whole, that little, what is it, 5-foot area?
The pink
It's,
area, which
it's
is
7
where
feet.
the mitigation plants currently are. And I think, I was just coming from the standpoint that it's so heavily infested with vines that I can't even see what the heck's out there. And as we remove the vines, we save what can be saved and then replant new shrubs to replace what didn't make it.
New shrub.
But we
No.
want to have it clear, we want to know clearly what it is that's supposed to be there. And so that when you're finished with the planting, I mean, you're gonna have to do some maintenance, that whoever goes out for a certificate of compliance can say, okay, this is what was in the old order, this is tick, 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 and you might have put some additional ones in.
I mean, we plan to put a lot of additional plants in.
Okay.
We want to plant the
They're
whole site.
removing.
But that's fine, we just want to make sure.
We wanna
what
make
was
sure that
supposed
you
to
have your
been there
plants
is
covered.
there.
I'm in complete agreement.
I mean,
Okay.
you are planting the whole site, but you're removing you're removing a whole, like.
A lot.
A tremendous amount of vegetation. Granted, it's invasive, but it does provide a limited, a wildlife habitat value of some sort, limited, but it's there. So we have to make sure if you remove it, it's replaced. But
Absolutely.
it's not counted as mitigation, and that pink area of perennials has got to go.
Okay,
That, Raul, you're gonna need to get your survey crew back out there, remove rocky intertidal. I want a note that Mary wants on the plan regarding the junipers, and I really would consider listening to the board regarding the eastern red cedar as opposed to the blue point.
Was that what was supposed to be there?
Yes.
Well, then it should be there.
Actually, that was just,
That was Betsy's point, though.
That was Mafi.
yeah. And then go out and if there are additional trees out there, Raoul, that your survey crew in August could not physically get to, have them hack their way in.
And there are a lot of small ones, Jen, and I know we usually have, it has to be 6 inches in diameter, or whatever the rule is, that, that's what we put on the plan. But so many of those were at one point probably large, but now there's so much sucker growth, and the stumps are down there. And like I say, the sumac has been hacked, everything's been hacked.
Okay.
So it just, I think everything should be put on there. I mean, just so you know, there are big clusters of native.
Maria, you may want to go back out there and do, now that you can see a little bit
Yeah.
more, do more of a native habitat, a native plant assessment.
You got it.
And also kind of craft a methodology and what I was just saying about how you'll remove it, photograph it, call us out there and come back, and then it'll give this board a comfort level that
Sure.
a certain methodology is going to be followed and it's documented in the record, okay?
You got it.
Okay.
You got it. Thank you so much.
All right, hang on, Kristen and Courtney have a chance here. Kristen?
Yeah, this project, this project raises some interesting questions about establishing mitigation planning areas and then maintaining them. All of our orders of conditions are very specific that, do you put the plants in, you're obliged to maintain them in good health and allow them to grow to their fullest extent, all of that. But somehow we keep running into these situations where these areas get overrun with invasives and stuff. I understand that. Invasives are invasives by their very nature, but perhaps we should be more specific in our orders of conditions to say that they've got to, that maintaining these areas in good health includes
Maintaining or controlling invasive.
in controlling invasives.
That's fine, we can add that too.
Yeah, I mean,
Get down to
Yeah, I'll
Doing the
put these
condition.
down. Courtney, absolutely great comment, and we can just add that verbiage right into that special condition that you.
Yeah, I mean, the point being, we might not even be looking at this issue right now, if that had,
I agree.
Mark's been pushing for that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I
So
came
make
into
it
this
part of the
project
standard conditions.
Yep, no.
in August, but I can tell you firsthand, I've seen it 100 times over.
Mm-hmm.
You get the blanket of invasive vines, and they smother, and they keep
no,
the sunlight.
absolutely, I
Yeah.
understood. But the point is, if you don't maintain that stuff, if you're not ever vigilant, running around pulling them out of the ground or doing that sort of stuff all the time, they're gonna take over, particularly bittersweet and whatever that berry thing is,
Swallowwort.
yeah.
All set, Gordon?
Yeah.
All set. Kristen?
I just add the order of conditions would be hand pulling instead of herbicides.
And instead of herbicide, yeah.
Yeah, and then I just wondered down the road what the path is made out of. Is it, stone or down, I mean,
What path?
the
The grass
proposed,
path or
the
stone.
proposed
That's
native
down the
path?
center, probably just mulch.
Okay, so,
You're saying no herbicide?
no, yeah, it would be better if it was hand pulled as you're going along to maintain,
Yeah.
rather than pouring the herbicide
Well,
on it.
what we do is we hand pull it, and when we cut it, I paint where the stem is, so that the
Where it's cut,
lysopate goes
We're talking
down
about,
the stem into the root system.
Yeah, but we're talking about just maintenance,
Oh.
not.
Maintenance.
Yeah.
After it's
Yeah.
all
Gotcha,
back to natives again.
you got it.
One quick question, Mr. Chairman, to Raul.
Mhm.
And Raul, you might have said this, and I was perusing the old file, and you did you get
Permission from the neighbors?
who owns that right of way?
It's a private roadway.
So it's at 40
The
feet?
adjacent
so-
properties.
So it's the
own
center
property.
line? Okay. All right, that's what I needed to know. Okay, so it's not an association right of way or anything like that? Oh, great. Something we don't have to worry about. So how long are you going to need to put all your information together and get? I think if it's gonna be the survey, Raul, it's on you. Great, we're handling it on pretty quick.
Jen, the other thing, there should be a limit of work on this. I didn't see one, did you?
Yeah,
No,
limit of work along with.
Yeah.
She's not, I know, she's doing
That's fine, I can be fast on my side. February 10th, February 10th.
Oh, wait a minute,
You might have an opening.
not so fast.
We're gonna need a limit of work on there too, no. We're gonna need a limit of work on this. Showing nothing now.
You are lucky you do not have any continued notices of events on February 10th. So everything has to be back in my office tomorrow, Wednesday, next Wednesday.
Okay,
Okay, limit of work, Laura, I will, on top of that seawall.
thank you very much.
Okay, so I'm hearing a continuance here.
I make a motion to continue to February 10th.
Second?
Okay, we got a motion by Maury, second by Mike. Any other comments, questions from the board? Comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry to keep that one.
Oh, no, that was good. I think.
Sorry, Mike.
Oh, good. Should be in shape now. All right. Next up is Daniel and Nancy Sawyer, 247 Central Ave, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to address non-compliance issues under DEP 252558 to remove sand fill, P-stone fire pit with perimeter boulders, remove an 8-foot by 8-foot float in invasive vegetation that was planted, install native tree and shrub mitigation plantings, permit the existing bluestone patio and wall and associated clearing, excavated, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I also have a comment from Mr. Clark for the applicant's presentation.
Good evening, sir.
Stan Humphreys with LEC Environmental Consultants, and Mrs. Sawyer is with me this evening as well. The plan that you see shows the existing conditions at the top, proposed conditions at the bottom. Resource areas on the property include salt marsh, a BVW, Zone A and B, buffer zones to the BVW, and a non-eroding coastal bank. In an effort to clear the title and request a COC, staff was asked to the site and a number of violations were observed. So this is an effort and an NOI to bring as much of the resource areas and buffer zones back to restored areas. Starting at the left-hand side or the west end of the property and working back towards the house, there's a man-made beach area and a wooden float, both of which are to be removed. Several 5-foot wide pathways leading back to the house, reducing the number of one pathway and minimizing the width. A fire pit area shown in the central area here, shown in white. A couple of play areas, all of which is to be removed to grade level. The Rosa rugosa shown here in red actually was not planted, but will remove it at the request of staff. And the bluestone patio shown in blue up by the house is on the face of the non-eroding coastal bank, barely meeting the requirement characteristics for a coastal bank. So at the bottom, what you see in green primarily is where the restoration is going to occur. There are 9 restoration areas flagged on the plan, comprising about 3,000 square feet. 300 plants of 4 different species and 6 trees, primarily oak and tupelo, and with a landscaping proposal, 30 groundsel trees will be planted out in that formerly a beach area. And then with regard to the bluestone patio that was inside the work limit originally, there is a 3-to-1 mitigation that's being proposed in this Zone B, comprising about 1,100 square feet of those 4 species that I alluded to earlier. We propose to monitor through 2 growing seasons, particularly the area out at the salt marsh where the float's to be removed. There probably will be salt marsh plants required there, but they may come back. And the idea is to work with staff over the next several years to make sure that the plantings have taken and that the restoration is complete as proposed.
You all set?
Yes.
Jen?
In the city Brunswick is going to be planted in number 7? Or did I get it backwards?
It's number 7, right.
Does it say that on your restoration there? Because it looks like, that looks like the little symbol for bear.
It says planting in this area may need to be ground cell or SMR. Number 7.
Oh, I'm sorry. Got it, thank you. Sorry about that. No, the applicant's representative worked very closely with Mark to identify all the issues on the site. They talked through it, we met the other day, walked through some clarifications and modifications that Mr. Patrick was requiring on the plan in order for the property to be in compliance, and all of that has been done.
Okay. Mike?
People better than I will fill you in. No question.
Maury?
I think staff has done a lot with this project, so I'm all set.
Kristen?
This is a new property, right, that they, a brand-new property? That they, for the new owner, or,
Well,
I mean, it's a
they
new,
hope to sell the property.
Oh,
So the
it-
order of conditions will
Oh,
primarily
I see, okay.
run with the title for the new
so
owner.
there's sand, but it goes across into the neighbor, I mean, they're just gonna work on the sand on,
Their property.
on their property, okay.
That- that's separate
Yeah.
filing.
All right, that's all, I don't have any other questions.
Courtney?
No questions.
Patsy? Mary?
Except it's a beautiful site.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring up my favorite thing. We don't seem to have, well, I
They
don't,
came, they came.
the data sheets? Okay,
Didn't they come?
because
Somebody else see?
otherwise
I
they'd be
saw
16 years
I
old.
didn't see them.
The
Did you give us
BBW data sheets.
We didn't produce any at this point.
Well,
Oh, you didn't?
so, I
Going
didn't
with the
see
old-
anything from the previous filing, but I gather that would have been a 2000 order of conditions.
Correct.
So I think I'd like to ask for a new set. They're 16 years old.
That's fine, can you get us a new set and just provide that?
Anything else, Mary?
No, that's all.
Mark was looking at that too, Mary, but he was, on the fence about requiring that, but if the board wants them, if you could just get me those BBW data sheets,
Do
then
we
that's
eat-
fine. We don't need a continuance for it, I don't believe, we can just,
Yeah.
Get it straight.
Do we even have the previous ones? Do we know that?
that I don't know. I don't
Okay,
have
well,
that information in
Even
front
the
of me.
report.
I can double check with Mark, but they'll produce them.
Okay.
I have That is a question from me too.
Oh,
But I actually thought you were giving them to us.
Thank you, that's all.
Jamie?
No questions.
Okay, so what's the board's pleasure?
Board's pleasure to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
So
Got a
you want
motion
special
by-
permission to submit CDWG?
Right.
Yes.
Got a motion by Betsy, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Maureen.
And thanks to everybody involved for clearing this up.
Any other
Thank you.
comments or questions from the board? Comments, questions from the public?
Yeah, mine was really Kristen's question too. I'm just digging down to where my questions were. So you're only working on your own property? You don't need a letter from the adjacent property owner?
correct.
All right. Sorry.
Any other comments, questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved. Good evening.
Thank you, Stan.
Okay, next up is Robert and Lorraine Williams, 26 Eel River Road, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove the existing brick wall and patio and replace with new bluestone patio, more landwood. Plant drought tolerant fescue, make repairs to the existing dock by replacing decking in through flow decking, replace joists, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
We continued that one, I'm sorry, we agreed it.
Sorry about that. This one is continued to March 2nd.
Yep.
Correct.
Sorry about that.
You're on 400 Edgewater.
Okay. Arthur and Pamela Chavez, 400 Edgewater Drive, East, and 402 Seacoast Shores Boulevard, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install 170 linear feet of vinyl sheet piling in the same location as the existing concrete block wall to construct 2 sets of inset stairs landward of the concrete wall to loom and seed areas landward of the sheet piling wall to provide 20 to 25 cubic yards of beach nourishment and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll save any of my comments and that slide for my presentation.
Evening, Mike.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. My name is Michael Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant. The applicant is requesting permission to maintain an existing very low-profile concrete block retaining wall. By maintain, I mean rebuild with a new material in the same location. The property in question is actually, they own 2 lots, and they're on the waters of Eel Pond. There's a very narrow band of beach. There's small pockets of salt marsh, and there's a very small area of dune. There's an existing licensed dock on the property, an in-ground swimming pool, and there's a residence on the property in this location. They also own this lot, and there's a residence further away out in this location. So the plan is to use the new material that you've seen on several recent applications, the vinyl sheet piling material. It would be installed in the same exact location as the concrete block wall is. And the methodology would be to first remove sections, manageable sections of the concrete block material with a mini excavator from the upland side, then install the vinyl sheet piling in place of the previously existing and just remove concrete blocks. That material is installed using a vibratory hammer on the excavator, and then a whale beam and a cap is placed so that the new wall will be on the same exact footprint, the same exact height. It'll simply replace the old wall. The Work would proceed, I would imagine, from the north side near the dock in a southerly direction. That area is entirely open, but we do show a construction access. There is a limitation on it's relatively narrow here, so we were hoping that we could do a portion, gain access this way, and then also be able to gain access this way. We can reach from both sides. And once you finish this area, the rest is relatively easy access. There's a plan also to install some access stairs from the grass down by creating like a notch, and the stairs would be inset into those notches. The overall height of this wall is about 3 feet, so it's not a very tall wall. It's simply an effort to replace the older concrete block wall that is now starting to show signs of failure, and the applicant is wanting to be proactive instead of reactive in installing that. We also thought that it would be wise if the commission could allow for some very minor beach nourishment along the narrow strip of beach at the base of the wall. A small amount of sand material, if possible. The beach is slowly eroding away over time. I think that sums up the project, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Jen?
Couple of things, Mike. How are you gonna protect that dune if you've got a mini excavator going in there?
Well, the idea is that since it's a concrete block wall, the excavator can sort of peel back sections. So the work would be done with the mini excavator and by hand, and as the blocks are pulled out, the expectation is that that dune will still be, since it was against the concrete block wall, it will still be relatively stable. And then, since it's only going to be in short sections exposed, the new vinyl wall would be just back from the edge of the dune, and it would be installed, and then the dune would just be settled back against the wall.
So if I go out there during compliance and the dune doesn't look like my little dune right here, you're gonna have to
Explain.
restore.
Well, the contractor would have to explain, I guess.
You know, the applicant will have to restore.
Yes, absolutely.
That, there's no way to put it on, I always say this to you guys, there's no way to put the sheet piling in behind the wall and then take the old wall out.
We could do that.
I'm just thinking it'd be less, I don't know, it would be less, cause less disturbance to that dune and that marsh.
Well, in this case, you have to take everything out
Anyway.
You gotta take
So-
everything out.
Why not?
What, why not just take it
Take
out
it
and
out
put
and
it
put-
in, or put the
No,
wall in
why
and take
not
it out?
put it in the back? Why not put it in the back
Back.
and
Yeah,
then
and
take
then
the
take
wall
it
out?
out. Mhm.
Yeah, we could do
Reach
that.
over
It's
and
basically
plug
a
out
foot,
the wall.
about a foot back, though, I mean, a concrete block is like, that wide, so they could drive it just behind it.
Just
Yeah,
behind it,
I'm
and then
thinking that we need to
plug
revise
up
the
the
plan and
blocks.
do that. And the only other thing, Mike, is I'm not in favor of the beach nourishment in this area. And that's it, I'd like that wall to go behind the little wall. Now, is the new wall gonna be the same height, Mike, or is it in the narrative, did you say it was gonna be 4 feet instead of the 3 feet?
It's designed to be the same height. It's gonna basically be within 6 inches. There's no plan to have it, project up above the existing ground, so it's gonna have a 3 foot plus or minus height, which is what the existing wall has.
Okay, then you need to revise your narrative because you have a 4 foot plus or minus.
Now,
I'm gonna bring that up before Mary does.
I always throw a few little tricks in my narrative to see
You wanna see whether we read it?
It's okay.
I've got it.
Okay, we can bring up the whole thing, at least you don't have Mashpee in here, so we're in the right town.
You're never gonna
So
get
other than
that.
that, Mike, can you revise the plan to show the wall in the back? And kind of give a little methodology on that, if you don't
Yep.
mind?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And in the future, just if you are looking at these types of projects, always know that will probably say, if it can be done, the wall should go behind the existing wall. So in future projects, when you're evaluating them for your clients, look at that and, because I think that's the way the board is going now. Right, Mr. Chairman?
That's fine, we just thought in this case it's such a low-profile wall that it could be installed and caretaking, but it's not worth the argument we can make, we can do it.
No, oh yeah, no, that's good. Okay, that's it.
Courtney?
No questions.
Kristen?
Just have a question, there's lawn here, and I just am wondering how much, nitrogen is going in there from the lawn, so whether there could be something done there after the construction, after you use that for access.
I know they don't fertilize this lawn, I've seen it in the summer, it's your classic Cape Cod lawn. It's fairly, it's not turf lawn by any means, so I don't think there's any issues with fertilization and nitrogen. I don't know what we could do, actually, other than make it a condition that we not, which you would not allow fertilization.
We don't.
Right.
Jen, do we have aerials? Was this always a beach?
I can get you
Can we?
aerials.
I'm
I'm
just
just not a big
curious.
fan of beach nourishment.
I'm not
In
either.
the rivers.
Well, and not only that, I'm not even sure, we know a lot of beaches get created over time. Sand gets dumped in, so I'd just like to know if it was always there. And is this an area that's land containing shellfish, the land under the ocean?
Well, it's considered wetland resource land under the ocean, and technically it would be
Which is
considered land containing
Yeah.
shellfish.
Yeah,
yes.
you're gonna, just put that on the plan.
Okay.
Because, you don't know if there's eelgrass. I know this isn't anything to do with, a dock, but still, if you're planning, beach nourishment, I don't know how the board's gonna go. I know I'm not for it, but I'd like to know what's out there that isn't gonna be impacted. And I'm sure that's a licensed dock, right?
Yes,
All right, just next time, put the license number on it.
I can add it.
It just, it makes it easier.
Just add it, Mike, it'd
Yeah.
be nice.
Sure.
Thank you.
And then, is there any possibility, what year was this house built and that pool put in? When was the pool put in?
I'd have to look, but it's been there for a very
A long time. I know, because I'm looking at the Falmouth V-zone line, and I'm looking at that whole thing, and I'm like, I don't ever remember this one, so it had to be a long time
This
ago.
pool's at least 20 years old.
Yeah.
I bet it's
Yeah.
more.
The only thing that maybe you could ask the applicant, because usually we don't condition when you're doing a repair, but to maybe put a small buffer in. It would certainly help with flotsam and jetsam or anything else with that. I mean, it's so low, and there's nothing really to stop any runoff, so,
I'll ask.
okay.
Well, that was-
Thank you.
I think that's what Kristen was getting at.
Yeah.
Something,
Yeah,
a little
help.
buffer.
Put a vegetative buffer in to help with the
I mean, if we let them keep it low, so it's not a penalty to them, but it's a benefit to them and to the environment.
Any suggestions? Plant material?
Jen
To
will give you a
plant?
suggestion. Right, Jen?
Beach plum?
Bayberry is one of the easiest ones to
Take
keep
for
pruned.
off.
No, I said, but we'd let you prune it.
We'll let
To what height?
Well, I think what they would be comfortable with, I mean, because this is just
Asking
being a good
for
thing.
it, yeah.
It's not required, and
Yeah.
if they do it, I don't want to penalize them and say, oh,
Sure.
to its full mature height after they.
I'm gonna have to ask.
Yeah.
I have a feeling they're gonna be resistant to
Yeah,
that.
well, it's expensive too, but anyway.
I'll ask.
If you tell them it helps the river, they might be
Mhm.
interested. Thank you.
Mike?
Is there any chance there being a footing under that existing block wall?
If there is, it would be very small. We dug around and we didn't feel anything,
Okay.
so.
I just said-
And if we're putting it behind it,
Well, I just don't know if it
It's-
comes back. but-
sure, I know, but it's not gonna be substantial. We move back slightly more.
And that's fine. All right, I'm done.
That's it.
I was gonna ask you how long the project would take, but if you're gonna put it behind the wall, it's irrelevant, right?
Right, but just,
You
I
just
would,
work along, it's
I would
not gonna
estimate it's
matter.
about a 2 to 3 week project anyway, just for informational
Yes,
purposes.
well, I mean, if you were doing it piece by piece, I would have been more interested, but this way it's gonna be stable while you're putting it in, and then you just take the wall out.
Sure, the existing wall is basically the limit of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mary?
Looking here, it's tiny,
Oh, it's tiny?
or easily dealt with.
Okay.
Your Form 3, there are no answers to questions 3, 4, and 5 about the ACDC and all that.
Oh, all right.
Um,
Did check off the boxes.
Yeah, and it's, it's in the neighborhood of the ACDC, so.
Not
It's not that close, but.
Can I ask just a question, Mr. Chairman, on, like, revising the narrative, Jen wanted me to revise the narrative on the 4-foot versus 3 and edits like that. You basically want me to just resubmit the notice of intent with those edits, like 12 copies again, and you just want?
No, I just.
Just for the file.
For the file.
For the file.
It's gonna be permanent record, that's
The plan, you'll have to submit 12 copies of the plan to the board complete.
Sure.
But a minor editing, typo or something, submit 1 copy and we'll switch it out.
Okay.
That's all.
Jamie?
Good.
Okay, what's your pleasure?
No questions.
Mike, how long could you get, you want the 10th?
17th would be good.
Oh, yeah, you're not around on the 10th. Can I just schedule you guys a couple on the 7th?
No.
You just
No,
continued.
yeah, you put in your BDA, yeah, you put in 2 today for the 17th. No, 17th would be fine.
At the request of the applicant, we'll continue this till the 17th.
Second.
Fine.
Okay, we got a motion by Maury, second by Mike. Any other comments or questions from the board? Comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Abstentions unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Nice night.
I have one more.
At least you don't tell us to have a good weekend.
Okay, continued request for hearing under notice of intent. Perch Pond, that's been continued. So next up is 54 Scribnocker Drive, East Falmouth, Mass. And it's already been read into the record, so.
Are we all set?
Yes, sir.
For the record, my name is Jack Landers Call. I am a civil engineer in private practice. And cut to the chase, given the hour. There was one issue. That issue had to do with global stability that was raised by Mike. I am hoping that you received the letter. You didn't receive the letter. Okay.
We did receive.
Oh,
we
good.
did, engineer?
Good.
Yes, we
Yes,
did.
okay.
No, there was 2 left.
I think it was around the first week of January, the owner contacted the design engineer. We had a conference call. I explained to him what the situation was, and the result was that letter that was prepared. Both the design engineer and the owner realized what they need to do, or what they would like to do, is get this project approved as is, with the stipulation that he will be monitoring the geologic conditions at the time of installation. And at that point, they will make a design change if necessary. That design change, as it was explained to me, would be one of several. The first is if there's unsuitable material, it will be removed, unsuitable being organic. Well, I'll just say organic. It could, I suppose, be something else. The second is that if it was more complicated than that, they would then get a geotech engineer in to do a further analysis. We would like you to strongly consider this as an appropriate action because the client did go out and get prospective bids for geotech studies. And they all came in close to $9,000, $10,000. We felt that it was a hardship for them to pay for that geotech study if, in fact, there was no driving need to. So we're hoping that your decision can entertain the letter, the fact that they will have a a site engineer, that is the design site engineer, will be on the site to make an evaluation and then in turn make a recommendation to the owner. Should that condition exist, we'll obviously stop work. They'll have to do whatever it is they have to do. And if it's more than just simple verification as to the soil density and condition, we'll proceed. If it's more than that, we'll stop and we'll have to evaluate and maybe come back here. I don't think it's that complicated. My intuition tells me, because I've done an awful lot of work on that road, that we are going to have native geology very close to the surface of the ground. That, in fact, most of that material is probably fill. That is, the upper slopes are fill. What they're placed on is native soil.
Jen?
Jen, did you see the plan with the trees? I can't remember. I thought I saw them.
You should have.
Yeah.
We
Betsy, can you double check? I know I saw a plan of yours come in. You have a revision date on it, Beth.
I don't know where the revision date would be.
On Jack's, it would be next to the title block on the
Not
bottom.
all of them, no. Depends on-
Edit curve detail, this one, I think.
This one is stamped November 25th.
No,
Well, you won't find a recent date on the structural plan.
What am I looking for?
Would
She wants
it-
a plan with trees.
all trees shown on Jack Lane shall remain. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Beth.
He has trees on his plan.
Okay, then that's all I need.
So
Sorry.
they need to remain.
I can't read my own.
Trees to remain.
I'm having issues reading my own notes tonight. Honestly, Mr. Chairman, board was concerned with the global stability, so the board's gonna have to, determine how comfortable you are with the applicant's, proposed methodology during construction. Which falls on poor Michael then.
We're gonna start it with Mike, I think.
That's fine. The plans came in were, in my mind, inconsistent. They're saying that global stability was not considered, and the engineering parameters suggested it might not be stable. The structural engineer is comfortable with it. It's a judgment value. He's taking precautions during construction. I'm comfortable with that approach.
Good, yeah. Well, yeah, once I did my homework.
I'm not, yeah, no, you did. It cost
Yeah, because
everybody to-
I know it as a different term. I know it as toe stability, so.
That's fine, and on the secondary, it is our responsibility to be sure that resources are protected. If there's anything that would go wrong with this, it would be defamation of the law. It would be the applicant to come back, and I don't see there being an issue. So that if there's a problem, it falls to the applicant, and that's fine. Everybody's comfortable, I'm going.
That's
If Mike's comfortable on this issue, I'm comfortable.
Laurie,
Same.
Mary?
I feel the same way. I also have a note about, we wanted to identify the contractor so that we could have consistent communication as this goes forward. So is this, I don't see him saying he's the contractor. Have we identified a
Well,
contractor?
he is the
or-
design engineer.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. I think the other thing too, as when a person draws the permit, your forms actually specify who's going to be responsible.
Okay, all right.
So we're going to back into it anyways.
It's still out to bid, in other words? They haven't locked it down.
Yes, they have.
Okay.
The design engineer and the landscaper have been chosen.
They'll need to give us that information.
All right.
It goes along with the green fee you guys like to have in your packet.
It's like a blue,
Opposed to a
red
red
B.
B.
You all said
Oh, I thought
Yes,
that
I
was
am,
apropos.
Kristen,
No question.
I did too.
I just-
Jamie,
I agree with Mike, I'm just gonna ask, should we require them to submit a soil analysis once that's done? They're gonna be checking that as it goes, is that the way you put it?
I feel a little uncomfortable speaking for the engineer, but I think at the same time, I think it's a reasonable request by this board to say he should at least submit a letter saying he inspected it
There you go.
and it is suitable,
Yeah.
okay? I can
guess
convey
that's all
that
I'm
message to
asking for
them.
is just,
That's perfectly reasonable, so.
All right, put that down on your notes for special conditions, so you want an engineer's letter certifying that the soils are suitable,
yeah,
okay?
Courtney,
No questions.
okay, what's your pleasure?
Motion to close the hearing, take it under advisement.
Second.
Got a motion by Jamie, to close the hearing, second by Betsy. Comments or questions from the board?
Thank you.
Hearing none. Comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved. Right, Jack?
Jack. Good night, right?
Okay. Next up is Nadar and Sarin Goliston, 77 Bourne's Pond Road, East Falmouth, Mass. This one's already been read into the record too, so. Ooh, stench. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there was a couple of things that we had asked, like to look at on the plan,
Okay.
and those have been done, and we can go through the points with you.
Mike, I guess you're up.
I'm not gonna do yours, Mike. I'm still on island mode, come on.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Michael Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant along with Chris Corici from Corici Solutions Architects. Chris is here with me tonight. We made a presentation several weeks ago on the project. I believe it was generally well received. There was some requests for some edits to the plans. We submitted revised plans, and I'll run through the basic changes. I submitted a letter that just outlines them, but I can just use it as an outline. At first, we met with conservation staff. There was a disagreement about the delineation of the salt marsh. We met with Mark, we talked about it, and we adjusted the salt marsh so it was consistent with his opinion on where it should be. And of course, when you adjust that line, the associated A and B zones to it have to get adjusted. In this case, salt marsh is just 100-foot A, not B. It didn't materially change anything with impervious surface calcs because the whole thing was already within 100 feet of the salt marsh. But we did make it change for consistency. We also adjusted the description on a portion of the coastal bank. In this area, there was some erosion at the toe, so we characterized this section as eroding coastal bank. And an eroding coastal bank has a different A and B zone than a non-eroding coastal bank, so we adjusted and created sort of a hybrid A and B zone. And again, it didn't change the project because it was all already within the salt marsh A zone. We added a dry well in a detail for the plan in case there's a need for drawdown on the pool for maintenance or things of that nature. And we also submitted data sheets. That's all, I believe that's the changes, unless Chris has something she wants to add, but we're both here to answer questions.
My only question, Chris, is the revisions on your plan, that just reflects the different A and B zones, correct?
And the dry lot.
Yeah, excellent. No, I think the board was very supportive and really liked the project. The last time we saw it, we made those few adjustments, so thank you.
It just added up a little too far to do it administratively, so.
Yeah.
Well, didn't we ask for also the caliper inches? I had that on a note on mine for the landscape plan. We wanted the amount of caliper inches of trees not shown.
Chris?
I don't know, I'm just reading my notes, I can't remember, I was,
Well, I don't remember the specific answer.
well, I have it written in blue, and then when I have my correction night, I wrote it in red, and then both of them I have, need existing trees, species size on plan, and need resource on plan, and then it goes, then it said need caliper inch trees not shown, so.
We have on the new plan the 7 to 10 B and B.
There's a note on the plan, and I don't think it changed. There is a no tree mitigation. And maybe I missed something, Maury.
Yeah.
There's 4 trees to be removed currently. 1, 2, 3,
Right,
4.
and then we wanted the caliper inches of the removal, because that's how you determine
Oh,
what.
it's right here. Mike, it's on the thing, you see,
Well, it says total
Total caliper inches to be removed,
47.
47.
Okay, I wrote that down, and it's on the plan now?
It's on this plan,
Okay.
revised 1/13/18, but I can't remember when we first did this.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, that's all I needed. And
Caliper inches to be removed.
moved,
right?
and yeah, and then it was caliper inches of trees, not, yeah, and I don't know, I would assume we would have asked what was gonna be planted, but you just said they're burlapped and balled, whatever.
Yeah,
There were
Okay.
5 trees proposed.
yeah, 6 to 7 feet, right, correct, Chris? Yep.
Yes. They're on 2 plans. The caliper information's on Mike's plan and then the proposed.
But, yeah, and the 5 trees to be planted are on Mike's plan, this plan, and then the
If-
height of the trees are on
Okay.
Chris's plan.
It'd be nice to keep the 2 plans consistent, and from now on, if you would do that, because when some people work off of an engineer plan, some work off a landscape plan, it's information that should be on both of them. Thank you.
Courtney?
No questions.
Kristen?
No question.
Mike?
No question.
Betsy? Mary?
No question.
Jamie? Jen, you're all set?
I make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
Motion by Betsy, second by Mike. Close the hearing, take it under advisement. Any other comments or questions from the board? Comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Good night, Mike. Good night, Chris.
Right.
The plans are so minimalist that they don't have any information.
Oh, here's one more thing. You never go away.
Okay, next up is Water by Estates Neighborhood Association, care of Peter Hargraves, Lot 103, Southview Way, East Falmouth, Mass. And it's already been read into the record.
See if he behaves himself.
Good evening, Tom, Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there were certain things that needed to be added to plan and submitted to us. Tom, Mr. O'Leary. Tom, did you ever reach out to National Heritage?
Yes,
Did you get their letter?
yeah, the letter. You didn't get it?
Might have, when did it come in?
It's dated January 14th.
Yes, then in my pile of stuff, I'm still going through. Yes, just look at your copy.
Church Street is
I didn't,
I don't know where this is.
He has a narrative.
Okay.
Maybe Courtney has a narrative.
Okay, we can have
Do you have the narrative for this one? Courtney. Do you have this one? Do you
I
have
think
this
some of
one?
the-
I don't have it.
Yeah, I had the,
Somewhere?
I lost it.
How are you doing? I wanted some clarification on the plan, some shots across, just so there's no further encroachment. Some more information on what yearly pruning of the vegetation was. The board had a long discussion about the sand that the applicant wanted to put on the area. So Tom, we can get to this, if you don't mind.
Yes, I get, for the record, my name is Tom Bunker, BSS Design, member of the Waterway State Association here. The first, I actually submitted 2 revisions because Jen said we should ASAP change the plan to show that we're not removing muck from the bottom, only leaves by hand using a leaf rake. And the bottom left, we changed that note to say only leaves. So at that point, we changed the plan and sent it into Natural Heritage. And we did receive the letter saying there's no take of endangered species from them. The second item I have, as Jen said, we'd like to know the widths of the beach area. So on the plans, I have a plan, the main plan, I also have this plan with the photos that shows the widths. I have a baseline running down the, sort of along the extension of the line of the steps going down, which were considered station and offset in surveyor's terms. Sort of so far down the hill and so much left and right to a rebar that we set. Pictures of the rebars, where some of them are sticking up, but they have all been driven in more or less flush with the ground surface. They have plastic caps on them, so they're not dangerous for kids to step on or anything. Won't get tetanus from that. That marks the edge of the sand area and the limit, the farthest outward limit of any pruning. There is no intention to cut any trees back from there, only perhaps prune overhanging branches. And so it's not all straight lines between the rebars, as you can see on the plan. Of course, it does waver in and out, but you know that's the amount of sand, and that's the limit of pruning that the maximum amount of pruning that they'll do in this area. And these locations can be reestablished from these dimensions. So we have that information for you. As far as the yards of sand, there was some talk about that, some conversation. It is, or is it sand is sold by the tons, basically, not by the yard. When talking with Patello's, I think we said to be about 9 tons of sand, about 6 cubic yards, 162 cubic feet. And this, it will spread out. It'll be between, 3/4 to 1.5 inches, on average, over that sandy area. So that's not a lot, and that's the maximum they would bring in that much every 3 years or so. So it'd be no more frequent than 3 years, and no more than 9 tons of sand. Just to break it out, smooth it. Will not be put into the pond. It's only on the upper sandy area of the pond. Those are the notes. I think there was the other thing, which I think they brought in the acknowledgement by the Patellos that as owners, that
Yeah,
they
we
are.
got that by email.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. And then there was one other issue that I think you got some emails about it. And it's only about, we're not sure what
the depth of water will have to do with cattails, the growth of cattails. Since doing this work, it seems the town is manipulating the water level at the far end of the pond. There's a spillway like we use in cranberry bogs, and the water level went up, I don't know if it's probably 2x8s, but the water level went up maybe 7.5 inches and flooded up onto the beach, so that this sign that's in here, we're sitting in water, and since then the water's gone down again. And it's just there as a kind of a question. I mean, obviously they're going to do everything in their power to protect the cattails and hope to grow, monitor their growth. It's just a question, just out there, just for the record, that because the water level is fluctuating, we're not quite sure.
That's a question that
if it's
we're in the process of investigating now also.
okay, whether the deeper water
And we'll have to,
might hinder their growth or not. I mean,
well, I don't know
Respect
about
that.
cattails, but about when and why this water levels are going up and down at various places.
right.
So,
Yeah, it's some other department, I suppose, or kids.
I can tell you that Mark doesn't feel it's gonna,
affect the cattails?
No.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens.
Right.
But if somebody's monitoring the height of it up and down, so much the better. If
Yeah,
one of
it'll be
you
in
wants
the-
to take that on as a project, that's of interest also.
It'll be in the pictures, if, I don't know, if the pictures got sent to you showing where
Yep, I have.
some of these, the bean poles were above the water, and others, the bean poles were underwater.
Yeah.
I believe, Betsy, if you can check and see if all those emails are in the record, I believe.
I
they
saw
are.
some emails, yeah.
Yeah, and they'll have photos attached to them.
I hadn't gotten to that far. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All set, Tom?
So I'm all set there with what we added.
Jen, you good?
I'm good.
Jamie? Mary?
Nothing, thanks.
Betsy?
I'm good also.
Mike?
I'm good.
Maury?
I just had two questions. How are you gonna get the sand down there?
As it was done before, I believe the truck would back up to the edge of the pavement and
Great.
dump it over in wheelbarrow,
Okay.
shovels and wheelers and rakes in there.
Right, because it's like 3 one-ton dump trucks. Right? And who's gonna determine when it needs sand?
I think the association will, and if.
Maybe
you
in
want,
conjunction, you don't wanna check and see if it needs it?
You want notification?
Notification, maybe, that,
You can condition it if you'd like the staff to do in a second, that would be fine.
okay. And then the other question is, where does the sand go all the time?
To the pond.
Into the pond? Yeah. I just wanna make that
There's,
for the record.
sticks
That
between people's toes and walks into the pond.
Well, I mean, 9 ton of sand is a lot of sand.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost a 10-wheel. It's a lot of sand. So I think it should be monitored, because if all of a sudden,
Deliberate on it.
okay. And that's all. Thank you.
Kristen?
And no comment.
Connie?
I could also point out that there's, if you've been, when you were out there, there's a stretch of the river bank buffer is all bittersweet, and there's a rosa multiflora there, so I talked with Peter, maybe in the spring, to discuss with you the prospect of, in small phases, removing the invasive plants and planting back a good native shrub buffer along this area. There's basically from this oak tree at the bottom of the stairs all the way down, in small, manageable segments. We'll talk about that
Down the line.
down the line.
Meanwhile, I make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
A motion by Betsy and a second by Mary to close the hearing. Take it under advisement. Any other questions or comments from the board? Comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved.
You gonna make it?
I'll make it like 3 more to go through. I'll make it.
I almost went flying.
That would have been hilarious on TV. No.
All right.
So we don't, that was, what do we do with
See what happens if he goes out and notices.
Okay, request to extend the existing order of conditions. 59 Davis Neck Road.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a one-year extension. I have one question. Mike, why are they requesting one year extension? If you don't mind, I'm just curious.
Well, they have one more opportunity to possibly nourish the deed.
Oh, okay, that's good, okay. Staff recommends the one-year extension.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to extend the orders of conditions. Any comments or questions from the commission? Any comments, questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Abstention, unanimous, so moved. Flume Pond. Good night. Good night, Mike.
Have a nice vacation.
Mr. Chairman, you can take the vote, the second two together.
Okay.
These are the Phragmites project?
Yes.
So Flume Pond, DEP 25-3860, and Gunning Point Road, DEP number 253784.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a 3-year extension on both those projects for the Phragmites removal project in those areas, so the staff highly recommends.
So this is maintenance?
Yep.
Yes.
Maintenance.
Yes, absolutely.
At the request of the applicant to give them a 3-year, was it?
Yes.
3-year extension.
That's
So
for
moved.
both of them, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion by Maury, second by Mary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved.
Motion to adjourn?
No,
Second.
I have a motion.
Oh, wait.
I think we should say happy birthday to Jen.
I think that's a great idea. You didn't bring a cake? I'm not gonna sound very good, but I'll try.
Happy birthday
to you. Happy birthday to you.